you're going to die. We're all going to die, and for most of us, we either accept it or, at the very least, don't think about it much. And how could you, with everything that's going on in life? Life, after all, is for the living. But if you consider it, everything we do is not only an avoidance of death, but in preparation of who succeeds us when the inevitable comes. It doesn't have to be a child. When you train someone at work or help a classmate at school, you're passing on a little bit of yourself. It's how we've been evolving since the beginning, and it's everything that makes us who we are. We're given knowledge today by people that died a long time ago, proving that even in death, life continues. Until it doesn't. Every day, new life is discovered. Much comes in the form of insects or plants of some sort. It gives off the impression that the variety of life on Earth is endless. Yet there have been 5 mass extinctions in our planet's history that threatened to kill off life altogether, and the Cretaceous extinction is the only one most of us even know about. Why? Maybe it's our fascination with violence. 65 million years ago, anything that happened to be looking at the explosion caused by the Chicxulub impactor would have had their eyes boil in their sockets. If you were standing behind a brontosaurus, its skin would have appeared translucent. Or maybe it's because the dinosaurs were literal giants, and we attribute strength and endurance to size. So the thought of an entire species of unfathomably large colossi being obliterated in an instant humbles us. No, I believe there's only one reason we turn over the extinction of the dinosaurs in our heads so often. It's because their end was unavoidable. Even today, we would have absolutely no way of stopping an asteroid the size of the one that ended the reign of the dinosaurs. We would die, we would know it, and we would be completely powerless to stop it. But despite the 5 great extinctions wiping out 99.9% of all life, it continues, as it always has and always will. Reincarnation is central to many religions, specifically Eastern Asian religions such as Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, and Jainism. When you die, you return. For example, in Jainism, the belief is that your soul is eternal, and when your body dies, it's born into another body in a different life. The quality of that life will depend entirely on the deeds of the past life in the form of karma. When your soul frees itself from all its karma, it achieves moksha, the total liberation from this cycle of life and death. But when the world does end, when the planet is gone, what's to become of the souls that leave it? Is it to suggest that without a planet to be born on, the cycle of reincarnation ends as well? What happens to the souls that have yet to reach moksha, or nirvana, or mukti? Do they simply cease to exist, along with the planet that once housed their mortal beings? The end of the world in the Christian faith is a bit more involved. And I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. The horses and riders I saw in my vision looked like this. The heads of the horses resembled the heads of lions. A third of mankind was killed by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur that came out of their mouths. There, of course, have been religious leaders that have predicted the end of times. In 1992, Harold Camping published a book titled 1994, in which he predicted that the world would come to an end at some point between September 15th and September 27th. He then revised this date on multiple occasions until settling on May 21st, 2011. Many followers went as far as selling their homes, taking on thousands of dollars in debt in order to see the world before its end. And in the case of Robert Fitzpatrick, a former engineer for the New York City Transit Department, using savings that took a lifetime to acquire to warn people.
Life will no longer be able to continue the way it is now. You won't have any electricity, there'll be no water, there'll be starvation, fires, there'll be tsunamis, there'll be floods. It will be terrible.
In the documentary, We Will Forget, with tears in his eyes, Robert describes the end of days as prophesied in the Old Testament. But a life of one's valuables is nothing compared to the loss of life.
Yesterday marked exactly 17 years when a cult, the Movement for Restoration of the 10 Commandments of God, infected close to 800 of its followers in the remote outspot of Kanungu.
The Movement for the Restoration of the 10 Commandments of God was a cult in southwest Uganda that predicted the end of the world would come on January 1st, 2000. Members were told to stop work, sell cattle, and even sell property. The end of the world didn't come on that day, but in the following days, the end of the lives of many did. An explosion during a party thrown by the movement resulted in the deaths of 530 people, 153 bodies found at a compound, 155 more at an estate of one of the priests, and 81 more at a farm owned by one of the leaders. Police put the total death toll at 924. Questions remain about the whereabouts of the 5 main leaders to this day. Regardless of how our respective religions intend on killing us, they tend to let the planet continue, or at least be born anew after its destruction. The question remains, what happens when God has no world to rule, no home for his children to roam and praise his name? And what happens to a soul with nowhere to worship their God? Two movies that come to mind when I think about the end of the world are Melancholia and Don't Look Up. The final scenes of these two movies take entirely different approaches to the end of our world. In Melancholia, there's a diametrically opposed reaction between the two sisters, Justine and Claire. As Justine sits in somber peace, awaiting the inevitable, Claire loses all composure and thrashes around in panic and fear. Both of their reactions are based on their motivations. Claire wants her life to continue. Justine wants hers to end. Both of them are accepting the end, but only one is fighting against it, regardless of how futile that may be. In Don't Look Up, the end of the world is different from many of the players. Some escape, others drink themselves into a stupor, but our main cast does something I didn't expect. They ignore it. They act like everything is normal, choosing instead to opt out of the fear that comes with the end, going so far as to force menial conversation regarding the preference of store-bought pie over homemade, knowing all the while that even that small pleasure in mere moments will cease to be even a memory. If everyone and everything living died off, if the planet we live on ceased to exist, what else would end? If no one is around to perceive something, does it even exist at all? You know that old thought experiment? If a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? A reader of the magazine Scientific American once posed a similar question in the publication's Notes and Queries section in an issue dated the 5th of April, 1884. The following was the response. Sound is vibration, transmitted to our senses through the mechanism of the ear, and is recognized as sound only at our nerve centers. If there are no ears to hear, there will be no sound. Something as universal as sound happens to be not so universal after all. Its existence is concentrated on this one little ball of dirt we call home, and even then, only experienced by those that live, human or otherwise. But if human perception defines the existence of something, then nothing could truly exist as we know it. The taste of an apple is only a taste because we taste it. The sky is only blue because our eyes happen to function within a certain area of the light spectrum that we process the sight as such. Kenophobia is the fear of voids or empty spaces. Phobias are typically described as irrational, but regardless of how irrational kenophobia may be, the fact is, when enough time has passed, everything, from every blade of grass to every star in the universe, will die, and what will be left will be emptiness in such concentration that even the conception of this nothingness won't be possible. In the 8th episode of the first season of the Justice League Unlimited, when contemplating its own purpose, a godlike and immortal android angrily debates the meaning of life with Lex Luthor. It begs to understand the meaning in anything when everything will come to an end, and at one point poses the question,
Is that my purpose? Simply to be a witness?
And that may be the case for humanity. We are witness to life, or so far as we know it. But I don't believe there's anything simple about that. Believers in religion are not stupid. Robert Fitzpatrick was not a stupid man, and the victims that died at the hands of cult leaders in Ghana were not stupid people. They were people with a need for meaning and purpose. You might choose to find it in religion, your work, or hobbies, or maybe your family and friends, but I can't help but think that being a witness to life might not be such a bad reason to live.